Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another irregular, random productivity rant for you. Today, I want to talk about a concept that I do instinctively, and it took me a while to get to the point where I do it. And it's basically a system for avoiding feeling utterly and completely overwhelmed. If you are good at capturing tasks, if you've done the things we've talked about before, you think of a thing that you need to do, you know when you need to do it, you know what kind of category it falls into, and you record that somewhere, digitally, on a card, in a notebook, whatever it is, whatever system works for you. You're good at capturing stuff. The end result of that is that you now have a list that continues to grow until you complete items on that list, and then you get that deep satisfaction of checking it off, crossing it off, deleting it from the list, whatever it is. That list is always going to grow. And that means that you're going to constantly feel like maybe you have too much to do. I've been doing this podcast thing for over 9 years now. But before that, I was a freelance graphic designer. I did that for 8 years. So I've worked for myself for a very long time. I've worked at home for a very long time. And I think at this point, I'm pretty much not office compatible. I couldn't go to a cubicle anywhere. I'm feral. I would pee in a corner and constantly make myself tea when people are like, why aren't you working? I couldn't go back. Anyway, all that to say, when I was working as a graphic designer, I would have, like 6 different client projects in one day. And it's easy to get lost in the work and just say, I'm going to work on this until I feel like it's done. But then you've got like 5 other projects to work on that day. And so you can't use your entire day. There was also kind of the opposite problem, which was that I would look at my to-do list for the day and I'd be like, oh my gosh, there are 8 different things that I have to do today, or 10 or 12. And just I would start my day at 7 a.m, completely overwhelmed. So what I learned to do was chunk my day up, and to know how long a certain task would take me. That task right there, design the logo for the client, would take me, I'm just making up numbers here. I don't think that this actually took this long, but like 3 hours to do this thing for the client. It wasn't to go soup to nuts, from nothing to a completely approved logo, but it was get a batch of drafts that were ready to send over to the client, and with an explanation and with guidelines from me, and I suggest you go this route or whatever. So I would know how long a task would take. I would sometimes actually write down, like, when I capture the task, in parentheses, the amount of time I thought that task should take. And what that allowed me to do is look at a to-do list and say, where do I file this new task that I know I have to do soon? Where do I file it? Well, I can't put it on tomorrow's list, because tomorrow's list, if I add it all up, has 9 hours of work on it. I probably need to edit that anyway, but I can't put it there. But the next day after that only has 3 hours of work on it. So I can totally fit it in there. So what it does is it led me to managing my to-do list in sort of a mathematical, chronological way, like doing the math on those 3 tasks there, a total of 5 hours. I probably have room for one more in there. And that way I'm not filing things onto a day at random and then arriving that morning and looking at my list for the day and going, past Aaron, what in the world were you thinking? Instead, I was able to sit down at my desk and say, past Aaron, I love you. You've been really good to me. And then tackle a day that was a little less stress-free, a little more stress-free, a little less full of anxiety, and get things done without panicking, without rushing. I knew I had the time to put into it. Some people use a system called Pomodoro. There's a lot of O's in that word. Just look it up. It uses a timer. There are Pomodoro apps. You can get a device on Amazon, like a little egg timer or something, and just use that. But the idea is that you're going to do a 2-hour task, set that timer for 2 hours and hit start. Now do the stuff. And if you are not done in 2 hours, it's going to go off and remind you that, oh, you're now over time. Yes, you will feel stressed and you'll feel anxious because of that, but it will train you over time to get things done quicker. Also, the more you do a task, the better you'll get at it. The first time I ever produced an episode of Lore, it took me like 2 hours to do a 15-minute episode. Now I can throw a 30-minute episode into GarageBand and I can be done in 45, 50 minutes. I'm not being sloppy. I've just gotten better. I know the hotkeys. I know what steps go in what order, and I don't have to stop and think about it. So you'll also get quicker at different tasks the longer you do them. So it's important to be able to look ahead at your list and say, before I file this task onto Thursday as a thing that I need to do, what does Thursday even look like? And make a guess or do the math and say, will this fit? Will this not fit? You're going to encounter situations where this task actually needs to be done on Thursday because the client's expecting it Friday morning. So you might have to look at Thursday's list and say, if it doesn't mathematically fit, what other tasks can I pop out and move over to Friday or Monday that have less urgent deadlines on them? That might mean that when you capture a task, you're also recording somewhere, along with how long it should take you, when its true and actual due date is, the drop dead date that it has to be done. It doesn't mean that that's the date you put it on your to-do list. Ideally, you're putting it on long before, so you have time to procrastinate or move it because of some other more urgent task. Emergencies pop up. You should plan for those. I will also say this. If you do not put lunch and a time for lunch, the time you're going to do it and the amount of time it's going to take to eat lunch, as a freelancer working from home, it's going to be very easy for you to skip lunch. So just make time. If you have a ton of email that piles up every day, don't forget to put email on your daily to-do list with 30 minutes allotted to it. Plan breaks if you need to. Coffee at 2:30 in the afternoon. Put it on the schedule. Who says that you can only have work things on there? You make the rules for your to-do management system. You get to set the pace and the tone. So make it what you want. But plan for sanity. Plan for sanity. Put only the number of tasks on a day's list that mathematically, using a calculator and a clock, you can get done. And put things on there that are easy to skip, like lunch or breaks or email. Put them on there. Make them part of the math. It does mean that you will have fewer items on your daily to-do list, but they're more reasonable. They're achievable. You have not set yourself up for failure and frustration. You have put in place a system that will allow you to have success. You can check things off. You can look at the list at the end of the day and see all the items checked off. And that is a magical feeling. If you use a paper notebook, what I have done in the past when I've used a paper notebook is I was still managing my tasks in an app called Todoist. But I would, at the end of a workday, I would open up Todoist, go to tomorrow's list, and I would grab a paper notebook and I would say, what order do I want to do these in? So first off the bat, I'm going to make coffee. I'm going to do email. And then I'm writing times down from 8 to 9. I'm going to do this project. It says I have an hour that I can do it. 8 to 9. There we go. From 9 to 11, here's a 2-hour task on the list. I will plug it in there. And I would build a roadmap for my day on a paper notebook. I don't do it anymore because a lot of my normal work life now, because I put out regular podcasts, whether they're weekly or twice a week, there's a regular ongoing rhythm to what I do. So I don't have to kind of map out these intricate days every day. I will occasionally have a day that looks really complex. It's got a lot going on, and I'll grab a piece of paper and I'll map it out just for that day. If that helps you, do that. Manage your tasks in a to-do app, but grab a piece of paper every night and write down the order that you plan to do them the next day, the times from when to when that you're going to do that particular task, and then draw little boxes next to them, because it's always rewarding to put a little check mark in there, or completely fill it in, or draw an X through it, a line through it because you've gotten half of it done, and then come back and do the other X. There's all sorts of systems. Look up bullet journaling and you'll find all sorts of really cool systems for that too. Build a system that doesn't guarantee failure, that doesn't guarantee that you're going to be frustrated. If you have a lot going on, build a system and use tools that help you feel successful, that help you achieve the things you've set out to achieve that day. You know how long a task will take you. You know how many tasks you can fit into a day. Check them off as you go, schedule them if you have to, and you're going to be a lot more happy in your work life because of that. And that's it for today. Hope that helps. See you next time.